Buenos días, señoras y señores. Bienvenidos al segundo día de este World Football Summit. Ayer tuvimos keynotes impresionantes, mesas fascinantes, ponentes como Andrea Agnelli, presidente de la Juve, y también Javier, presidente de la Liga. Pues hoy vamos a seguir en ese mismo camino. Y pues claro que este evento se llama World Football Summit. Entonces tenemos que tener ese enfoque global. Y para arrancar en este segundo día, nos enfocamos ahora en Asia. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to day 2 of the World Football Summit. We had some superb speakers yesterday, some fascinating roundtables, and I think you'll agree the speakers that we had were absolutely top class. We had Andrea Agnelli, the president of Juventus and indeed the European Clubs Association, and the president of La Liga, Javier, just to name a couple. But this event, as you know, is called the World Football Summit. We have a global focus. And so, to start off the second day, our focus is Asia. Hay muchas cosas muy interesantes que están surgiendo en el fútbol asiático. El negocio, por ejemplo, entre Facebook y la Liga, que mencionamos ayer, y el deseo de ese país de albergar al Mundial en el año 2034, sino en el 2030, y también el crecimiento continuo de la Superliga de China. Entonces hay oportunidades, pero también hay desafíos. There are some very interesting things happening in Asian football right now. The Facebook deal with La Liga that we talked about yesterday. The desire from that nation to host the World Cup in 2030, if possible, but if not, then in 2034. And the continued growth of the Chinese Super League as well. And that's just China and India and a number of other countries. But my goodness, there are so many opportunities across that region, but there are challenges too. Para contarnos más, tenemos como ponentes para esta primera mesa a los siguientes. So let's find out more in this first round table. So let's introduce our guests and our speakers. Como moderador, moderating this round table, Javier Guerrero, head of Asia for DV7. We also have Geng, senior director of strategic business development for China Sports Media. Iván Codina, who is the managing director for La Liga in Australia, Japan, and South Korea. We also have Iván, who is a late replacement today because sadly Felix could not make it, but the managing director of United Vansen International Sports Company is here. Thank you very much indeed, Iván. And Jörg Daubitzer, a football and sports business expert. Please give them a very warm round of applause. Javier, encantado, mucho gusto, te paso la palabra.
Thank you, David. Well, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I'll be moderating this fantastic roundtable. We're going to talk about the challenges and opportunities in the Asian football industry. Here on my right, we have Geng. Eric is the international business development manager of a company called China Media Sports, expert in media rights, also in sponsorship, based in China. And my first question to you, Eric, would be like, although China is a very attractive market with a huge potential, in the past we found several Western companies that had unsuccessful experiences in the Asian market, especially in China. What would you say that are the challenges that these companies are facing, and why are they failing?
Yeah. Well, actually, as many of you may know, when you try to come to China, you think, well, it's a big market with great potential, and, well, I come here, I can generate a lot of revenue, I will be quite successful. But sometimes, and most of the times, that you encounter the failure in the Chinese market. So I'm not sure whether I can conclude all the challenging points, but for me, I think the following four sectors are quite important for you to consider. First is the cultural difference. So we all know that China speaks different languages, with Chinese is quite different from the Western languages. And then is the, just give you an example. If you come to the Chinese market to sell your sponsorship, always you would ask the agencies or your clients, the question is, what's your budget? But normally, the Chinese clients and the Chinese companies would ask you the question is, how much do you want? So normally, the Western companies and the clubs, teams, they would not say how much I will charge you. I need you to give me your budget, and I can give you the rights you want. But this is the dilemma you face in the market. It's quite different from Europe. And the other problem is that about the payment. Because I think in the Western world, maybe you can make a payment since you sign a contract and receive the invoice within 3 days. But for China, if it's a significant amount of fee, it takes at least half a month. So for many partners, it's always challenging to understand why it takes you 14 days or even a month to make the payment. You have the invoices, you have the contract, you can pay. But now we need to report to the tax department of the government that we need to transfer the money out. And sometimes there is a foreign currency regulation which takes you some days to solve the problem. So those are the questions and problems in the market probably the Western world may not understand and sometimes cause confusions or eventually lead to the failure of the cooperation. And secondly, I think the strategy in China is also very important. We all think that China is huge, it's a very broad country, have lots of people. So we just talk about that a regional city in China, the population of the regional city may be much more than a capital city in Europe. For example, most of the regional cities boosted a population of around 5 million to 10 million, actually, which is an amazing and unbelievable number to the Western world. But that's what happened in China. So you need to develop your strategy in China is that, should I first develop my fan base in China, or should I focus on the revenue side? If I focus on the revenue side, should I first focus on the media rights or sponsorship or the social media advertising? So lots of questions needs to be answered that you need to have a clear strategy to come to this market before you make the move. And thirdly, I think I would say the efficiency. When I say efficiency, many of you may think, wow, Chinese people is very slow. You need to speed up to work with us. But actually, it's opposite nowadays. If you have experience working with the Chinese companies or with the Chinese people, we have a saying and have some of the internet companies, which is the most developed part in China. We say that their working system is 996. By 996, they mean you start working at 9 a.m. and you finish your work at 9 p.m. and you work 6 days a week. So can you imagine that's how fast the society works in China now? And basically, many people working like they are ready 24 hours per day, except the time that they sleep. So we're really efficient in this market, but sometimes our feeling is that our Western partners may respond not so quick. Maybe we can't get a reply by email for 24 hours or 48 hours. So we are really struggling for that part. And sometimes our clients, the potential sponsors, if there is no feedback to them within 24 hours, they may in doubt of you. Are you really representing the organization or the club? Why you can't give us a response in such a long time? It's unbelievable. So that's the difference here. And then the last thing I think I want to discuss is that you need to find a right partner in China. Many of you may have the experience coming to China and struggling. You can't find a good partner. Sometimes people promised a lot, but they couldn't deliver. You can't easily judge who is the reliable one, because they will always say, well, I'm number one, I'm quite big in China, I have many successful cases. But even the club like Barcelona, I heard that they are cheated by a Chinese company that they said they represent government and can organize a tour for Barcelona, but in the end, they didn't. So that's the 4 points I really want to share with you guys here. Thank you.
Yeah, interesting about what you said about the partners. I think it's one of the most important things and difficult things that clubs are facing in China, especially. Well, thank you. We'll come to you later to go deeper in this question. Next to Eric, we've got Iván Codina. Iván is the managing director of La Liga for Southeast Asia countries, Korea and Japan. Thank you, Iván, for being here.
Thank you.
My first question to you is, yesterday we've got Tebas here explaining, giving us a wonderful speech about La Liga strategy. From your chair, what are the challenges that La Liga is facing in the coming years in the Asian countries?
Good. Well, good morning, everyone. For La Liga, please allow me to give you a bit of context of the project that we have in Singapore. Actually, 1 year and a half ago, we established an office in Singapore that covers the entire Southeast Asia region, as well as Japan, Korea, and Australia. We're talking about a region with about 700 million population. So there is a very different behaviors from market or country to country. And we're talking about a region where it's fair to say that the EPL is very well established. So for us, it was a very challenging project to start, knowing that we haven't barely done anything in that part of the world until more or less 2 years ago. So the biggest challenges that we face, and challenges and opportunities for our office is, number one is to develop our brand, to make sure that we increase our brand awareness. I know that it might be difficult to understand for someone who is based here that La Liga as a brand, 2 years ago in Asia, is not as recognized as it can be here in this part of the world, or in other many parts of the world where we are a very premium brand. We are a premium brand in Asia, yes, but still we demand, we need sometimes, a bit of education and work, and when we talk with some of the potential partners about our brand. That also translates in terms of increasing our fan base. Obviously, the more awareness you have, the more opportunities you have to increase your fan base and to engage with them. So this is definitely a huge opportunity for us. Everybody knows that main business for La Liga is the distribution of the TV rights. So obviously, the broadcasters always, doesn't matter that you have, the best product or the best league in the world, but you still need to show, what is your fan base and what do you know about them, which is so important nowadays. Second opportunity or challenge for us is definitely to help and support our clubs. It's our responsibility to support them and to arrange for them, different platforms where they can also tap in and build the brand and continue increasing the presence in this part of the world, in Southeast Asia or the markets that we look after. So we know that currently, if we take the EPL as an example, every weekend, they may have, 2 to 3 matches that generate, a lot of, generate a good appetite for these games. For us, we currently have, of course, El Clásico, the Madrid Derby, and some of the matches, but we need to have, the support and the help of our clubs to push together and generate, this awareness about our clubs. Mm-hmm. Last but not the least, I would say that there's also a challenge to adjust or to understand what is the new consumption behaviors, when it comes to football. It's a lot has been said yesterday in the different panels or keynote speeches that, that the way football is consumed, is changing. So you really need to adjust, onto the different, ways that, the fans are consuming football. And in Asia in particular, there is different opportunities. And for us as La Liga, our approach is a bit different than any other regular leagues, football leagues. So we believe that, we are an entertainment brand. We are no longer just a football league, but we are actually entertainment, and we compete for the time of the fans or people out there that want, to dedicate on our product. So we have decided to, increase our portfolio of assets that we have. So we have projects like La Liga for Sports or La Liga Genuine, or our association with the F1 team Renault. So in the end, these allow us to reach a bigger audience, and to offer, a wide range of opportunities to engage with our fans. So in the end, it's not football, it's La Liga.
Oh, thank you, Iván. Next to Iván, we've got Lijuan. Lijuan is replacing Felix. They represent United Vansen Sports Limited. United Vansen, UVS, is the most experienced company hosting top European football games in Asia. They have an agreement with the French Federation and the Italian Federation, and they have host a couple of matches, a couple of Super Cup matches in China, Italian Super Cup and French Super Cup. Well, that's a very interesting thing, and we would like to know a little bit more about your experience. Can you tell us how was that experience organizing such a big games in China, please?
Thank you very much, Javier. And good morning, everybody. And first of all, I would like to apologize for Mr. Felix not being able to be here today with us. And regarding Javier's question, I would like to share with you 2 cases of success. Our company, UVS, has organized successfully 4 times Italian Super Cup in China, in Beijing and Shanghai. The 2011 Milan Derby match currently holds the ticketing record of all sports in China. So that means the China market has a high level acceptance of European official levels, official matches. And another example is I think is the basketball NBA in China. Every year there are 2 matches celebrated in China, and it's a good opportunity for teams and promoters. The teams not only want to come to China to play, and also do a lot of work interacting in social networks before matches. So nowadays it's very good. So I think the experience of the NBA basketball in China is a good reference for all the promoters who want to bring their matches abroad. And also I like to show you some point to reflect on, because not all events end up successfully. In the summer of 2017, more than 13 football matches were celebrated in China, including 4 ICC matches. And every day, every week, the main 5 European leagues, other lower category leagues, and other Asian leagues were broadcasted in China on TV. So Chinese fans have many choices of high-level games. And here, the core competence is their time and their attention, because they have purchasing power to go to stadium to watch matches, but they have limited time. At present, China eagerly accept very well high-level games. So I think the NBA's market is, no, I'm sorry. So I think in China, there is a very good market for this kind of games.
Well, thank you, John. Next to John, we've got Jörg Daubitzer. Jörg is one of the most experienced professionals in the Asian market. He led the Bundesliga strategy. You used to be the international managing director of Bundesliga, am I right? Yeah. And my question to you is, well, tell us some anecdotes. I mean, what were the challenges you faced in your time in leading the Bundesliga strategy in Asia?
Yeah, thank you, Javier. Good morning, everybody. I'd like to rely a little bit to the explanations Iván did, because we made in 2012 similar experiences when we opened, when I say we, as the Bundesliga, the first international office in Singapore. And so the biggest experience, the biggest challenge was to understand and to see and to learn. If we speak about Asia, yeah, it's always easy to say, let's go to the Asian market. But if you are in Asia, you see how big it is, how many countries you have, and how different all those countries are. It's not just about size, it's not just about economy, it's not just about language or religion, it's culture, and it's then the most important aspect, it's the history to football and the current status or the current relation to football. So you need to have in all of those different countries a completely different strategy. You need to have a completely different approach. And if you do the decision to move to this big continent, you have to keep in mind that this is not just a short-term activity. This means a mid to long-term commitment, and it means also for the top professional leagues, for the top professional clubs, not just the opportunity to take short-term benefit. It means a lot of investment, a lot of economic investment, a lot of investment of time and manpower, because I think the most important aspect, and this is what we all have to remember, is that we have the responsibility as professional football organizations to help to develop the football structures and basics in Asia, because I think in the long-term thinking, it's not very clever to rely just on the hope then the Asian people are very thrilled just about a club or just about a league. I think the most important aspect is to grow their real commitment to football.
Well, thank you, Jörg. I think we had some four general questions. I would like to go a little bit deeper. I mean, when I come to one of these events, what I expect is to learn a little bit and get back home with some experiences and some extra knowledge that I didn't have before. So, Eric, I would like to ask you about, you talk about general opportunities, but can you be more specific? Here we have clubs, we have federation, we have football professionals in general. Tell us from your point of view that you're based in China, what are the main opportunities in terms of increasing revenue? That's the most important thing for us, for the football professional. How can increase revenue? How can we increase revenue in the Chinese market? Tell us a bit of your knowledge about this.
Yeah, sure, no problem. I think China is, as any other market in the world, so they can contribute the revenues in several areas. The first, apparently, is the media rights. So for media rights, I think out of the media rights of all the major European competitions has enjoyed a significant, amazing growth in China in the past few years. So for example, the Liga. Since the centralization from 2015, I think, so the media rights value of the Liga in China increased like 20 times than the previous cycle. And they renegotiate a contract just, I think, this year around, and the price is doubled again, which means that currently the media rights of the Liga in China is over 40 times than before the centralization. And I think when Jörg led the negotiation of Bundesliga rights in China, it enjoyed a similar growth. So I know the numbers should be confidential, but that's according to our market research. And also, even though for the English Premier League, which already enjoyed a very steady revenue from China in the past, the next cycle, their revenue will increase by 14 times compared to the current one, which is, I think, for most of the media rights industry experts, is unbelievable. But not only those leagues, Serie A, I think their latest cycle, they enjoy, for example, 5 or 6 times than the previous one. UEFA Champions League also tripled their revenue in China. So when you heard those numbers, we think, wow, it's just unbelievable. And also, but you may say, well, centralized revenue is up to the league, to the federation. What can I do as a club, as a team? Then I think there will be the opportunity from OTT or club channel. So by club channel, we know, for example, Real Madrid and Barcelona, they all have club channels in Spain, and it's 24 hours. And Manchester United also had a very successful club channel, and they had a partnership with a Chinese media company for a 3 years contract, and they were on air in China every day. And also OTT allows you to set up a direct connection with your fans, to monetize, to know more about your fans, to gather the data, to talk with them. So I really think for clubs and for teams, if you need more initiative on the market, there is also the OTT and the club channel opportunities. And the next part, I think, is sponsorship. After the just finished FIFA Russia World Cup, there are 7 sponsors coming from China, which means that close to 14% of the World Cup sponsors are Chinese brands, which is quite significant. And also for the national teams, for the federations, we also witnessed that the national team of Portugal, of Argentina, of France, Belgium, they all signed one or several Chinese sponsors as their team sponsor before the FIFA World Cup. For the star players as well, Messi, Ronaldo, Neymar, they all become the ambassador of Chinese brands from this year, and the number of the sponsors Neymar signed are 4 along in this year. For the clubs, and I think most of you are aware that the major top teams from Europe have several Chinese sponsors as well. So I do think there is great potential exists in the sponsorship markets in China, targeting the Chinese brands. The next part I want to talk about is the new revenues, which sometimes may not fall in your mind, but there are opportunities. For example, the tournaments, the friendly matches, which our friends also host in China. So except the Italian Super Cup, we witnessed that the French Super Cup struck several years deal with a Chinese company this year, which will host 3 French Super Cup in China in the next 6 years. Also, the International Championship Cup come to China from 2015 and boosted the teams like Real Madrid, Inter Milan, AC Milan, Bayern Munich, etc. So the participation fee is a new revenue stream for clubs, definitely. One more area which is quite interesting is the youth academy. We saw that Bayern Munich signed 3 youth academy partners in China now, which is quite significant. And also Barcelona has a youth academy partner in China, as well as Manchester City. So there are many examples, and many other clubs are working on this scenario now. The next part I want to talk about the growth is marketing. It's not revenue, but ultimately it leads to increasing your revenue. By this, I mean, I just give you a simple example. From this year, we became the exclusive commercial partner of the Portuguese national team, and we signed 4 Chinese partners for them, the very first sponsors in their history. But not only that, we also launched and operated their social media in China, which is Weibo. And in less than 6 months' time, we have accumulated more than 600,000 followers on their Twitter, on their Weibo account. So what does it mean? On their Twitter account, they have around 570,000 followers globally. But alone in China, in less than 6 months' time, we have accumulated more than 600,000 followers. And so besides the online marketing, there is also below-the-line marketings. For example, Manchester City, when they established an office in Beijing, in Shanghai, they organized several viewing parties during the big matches of Premier League to allow their Chinese fans to watch the games together, to interact with each other, to have the atmosphere of being together with your fellow supporters. So those 4 areas are the examples. I think there are huge potential growth opportunities in China.
Well, thank you, Rick. I think what you said about WeChat and Weibo, it's a very interesting thing, especially in China. Iván, my question to you is kind of similar to Eric. You've been 9 to 10 years in Singapore. You know perfectly the Southeast Asia market. Can you tell us a success story and a failure story that you can share with us? What would you do different? What would you do the same? Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to focus probably on this experience that I have with La Liga so far. One success story, I would say definitely, is the La Liga Global Network project. I'm not sure how familiar everybody else is here, but basically it's a project in which we have over 60 delegates that have been sent, worldwide, to support, different markets in the world, key markets for La Liga. So in words of our president, Javier yesterday, our strategy, that is a global strategy, is definitely supported by this project. That means that we have, if we talk about my office that I look after, we have 9 delegates that support us, a full-time base in each of the markets. So that help us to get some, market intelligence that, otherwise we would not have. So it helps us to be closer to our fans and to the different stakeholders that we work with, right? So that means that, on a daily basis, we are able to communicate directly with our broadcasters, which is really important. They allow us to, to understand better what key messages we should be distributing on the different digital channels, etc. We define, a lot of different, opportunities. So definitely this is something quite unique. Perhaps in the beginning it was hard to understand for everyone about the project, but we don't have time, to wait for results for 5 years, and a long-term results. So we actually want to see results on a daily basis and on a short term. So that I would say that definitely this is one of the biggest, opportunities or the biggest, success stories that we have to tell from La Liga.
Okay.
And probably the key message here is for everyone that wants to go into the Asian market, that is not just, I go and step in and then, immediately you get, opportunities to sign, either partnerships, or sponsorships, or engage with the fans. You need to actually look at the long-term strategy that helps you to help, the local markets understand that you are there to stay and to also get involved with the market. Something that did not work well for us, I would say that, well, if we look at for us, definitely the digital platforms is a key, to enter into these markets. So it's like they say, Rome Empire was not built in one day. So it takes time. So our strategy at the digital level, we have experience that when you want to communicate with or engage with the local fans, you definitely need to understand, what is their behavior or what is the key message that you want to share with them. So something very simple as, I don't know, Chinese New Year, is not, equally greeted in Singapore than it is in China, or when you want to, I don't know, engage with the Hari Raya or other festivities or other things that happen in the market, you need to really understand, so that is something that we learned the hard way at first. And nowadays we have, we engage in the key markets with local agencies to support us on our digital strategy, and definitely something else, another learning for anyone who wants to go into the markets in Asia. It's not just translate, a post and you send it across. You need to speak the same language. You need to understand the market. You need to make sure that the content is relevant. So this is basic,
Well, thank you. I like what you said about the long-term strategy. It's probably one of the first mistakes that we Western do when we land in Asia. Joan, I have a hot question for you, and there is a hot topic now in the Spanish football industry, which is that La Liga is trying to take an official game of La Liga abroad. You've hosted some big European games. Lazio, Inter, and Milano, I think was one of the games I saw on TV. And it was an official Super Cup game. Can you tell us a little bit more, what are the benefits for the clubs, what are the benefits for the competition, and what are the benefits for the host country from your point of view?
Okay, I think it's an opportunity for the Liga to promote Spanish football, to try to bring some match abroad, because they are official ones, because it's very different from commercial ones. In this sense, official ones are more attractive for the fans. As what I said before, I think in China market, the offer is greater than is greater to the demand. So it's also a challenge for the Liga. And for the teams, we think it's also an opportunity for them, because not only for football matches, but also for football trainings, to share their knowledge and experience. In this area, China will be a big market in next years. Nowadays, in China, there are more than 300 million of football fans. So we think it's a big market, and I think it's good for all parts involved: teams, hosts, and promoters. So fans demand high-level games, and here the most important thing, as my colleagues said before, is to have a good local partner who knows very well the local market and with positive experiences. Because there are a lot of work to do before the matches, such as promoting activities, promoting events, interacting social networks. So, because if the event fails, it will be very difficult to attract again the attention of the fans. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Legion. Jörg, my last question to you. Then after this question, we will give some time, right, David, for the audience to
very
ask
quickly.
questions.
Very quickly. We have our next session coming up very quickly. But listen, we can do it. We have to be concise, guys.
Okay.
So, Jörg, I would like your most concise answer possible, please,
Then
to
let's
the
go
next
for it.
question from Javier.
Jörg, give us 3 things a club or a professional should take into consideration once they decided to land in Asia. 3 titles.
Okay, just very short. We saw over the past years, especially at the beginning, a lot of clubs that made a lot of mistakes. And over the last years, we saw a lot of clubs that made a lot of things in the right direction. Bayern Munich was named as one example in China. We have Dortmund from the Bundesliga side in Singapore as their hub to go in different markets. So a lot of things went pretty well. But all success is based on 3 aspects. It's based on reliability, it's based on sustainability, and at the end, it's based on respect. Reliability means you have to choose very carefully in which market, in which country you're acting. The second aspect is, let me come back to reliability. It's important to choose the right market, because you need to find the market, the people that are relying to your club, to your activities, to your intentions. The second aspect is the sustainability. It's not just sending over your professional team once or twice a year to a specific country or to a specific region. This is just the cherry on the cake. To work in a market, to work with people, to work in the football business in such a region means it's a 24/7 job in all disciplines. And by the end, and I made the experience, unfortunately, too many times, a lot of clubs do not bring enough respect to the people in those markets. They just see them as cash cows, but do not understand that they make a lot of efforts, that they have a lot of achievements to bring the football in their specific regions with their specific circumstances step by step forward. And this needs to be always in the mind to be at the end, not just in a short term, but also in a mid and long term perspective, really successful in those regions and markets.
Well, thank you. That's a very clear and good answer. David.
Thank you. Yes, I mean, I totally agree. Some really important take-homes there, and just some really important cultural intelligence as well, because we're dealing with markets and countries and populations that maybe we just simply don't understand, in which case this is vital information. Thank you very much indeed, Jörg, and the rest of the panel. Now, very, very quickly, muy rápido, vamos a tomar 2 preguntas del público. Si tiene alguna pregunta, por favor, que se levante la mano y vamos a pasar un micrófono inalámbrico. Entonces, por favor, que me digan inmediatamente si tiene alguna pregunta. Este es el momento. This is the time. If you have a question for the panel from yourselves, we're going to take 2 of them. Please put your hand up right now, and we've got someone with a microphone who'll be able to come and find you. Wow. There must be someone. 10 seconds. There's one over there. Thank you very much. Okay, Fran, por favor. Can you please stand up so that Fran can see you and you can ask the question? Have we got the microphones? Okay, unfortunately we don't have the microphone, but can you please just tell me what your question is and I'll pass it on to the panel. Just going to take this one question. Okay, great. So what do you think of the attitude and the strategy of some European football clubs like Manchester City, and it was Lyon, wasn't it, Olympique Lyonnais, through the esports market? Who would like to answer this question? I have to ask you to do it very, very concisely if you can. Would anyone like to volunteer to answer this question? Jörg, we're looking at you.
I have for more than 20 years experience in cooperation with Electronic Arts, so they are the publisher of the FIFA game, and I'd like to give a short answer on that. I think it's absolutely good to take different opportunities to get into contact to your fan base, to your people in all markets, not just in Asia. It's a similar situation in the, let's say, in the Western Hemisphere. But we should not forget that it is a nice add-on, yeah, a growing add-on, economically very interesting add-on, but it's not the core product football. So we always have to keep the relation. Yeah? It's esports, and it's not happening weekend by weekend in the stadium, on the pitch, because yeah, it's a different technology, a different target group, and so keep the balance. This is what I have in mind if we speak about esports.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with him. Basically, esports it's a part of the strategy. I mean, Jörg said it before. You need a strategy before you think about landing in Asia. So esports is not like a separate strategy from the global strategy of a club. You need a strategy, then you need long-term thinking, and you need adaptability, or you said it, respect, right? So I think esports should be, it's a big market in Asia. I think 80% of esports fans are over there, but it needs to be part of a global strategy of a club.
Okay.
I think cannot be separated.
I'm really sorry, guys. We've totally run out of time. But listen, I'm glad that we got to the audience in the end. We did get a question, but thank you very much indeed. Javier, Eric, Iván, Iván, and Jörg. Please give our panel a big, big round of applause. Thank you very much indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, please leave the stage. Muchísimas gracias.